This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Elio, Assuncao, founder and director at Venture Capital World Summit. Venture Capital World Summit is a global community for investors and investees where they help businesses get more capital and expertise as they need to scale up and grow internationally with the support, if required, from their trusted network. Their message to international businesses and entrepreneurs is simple. Attend our international conferences and get in touch well before. Elio, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Martin. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So what was your background before you started working with Venture Capital World Summit? What did you do before this?
I did mostly at university. So I did college degree. I actually did two master's degree. And during university, I've always been jumping around. And then that's how the whole thing started. So the background is more technical, although I haven't spent too much developing software products. I've been more on the theory side of things and thinking and analysis, that side of things.
Great. So what excites you right now?
Well, I think climate change and local investments, I think that's the future. I think because of trade and with all these things going on, including COVID, I think there'll be an emphasis on local entrepreneurs all around the world. So trade will still happen, but it will kind of evolve. So there'll be more talent. The pool will be broader, which investors also want to access because they don't want to be seen as leaving other part of the community behind. So especially now with race and ethics and culture, encompassing all those aspects is great for investors. And it's great for local communities as well.
Well, that's great. So what's your advice for people investing in startups? You see a lot in this direction. What do you tell those investors to do before they write that check?
I think it's not just people, but and it's not just ideas. I think it's the drive as well, the passion that people have. And they don't have to always be loud. Usually the loudest people are not always being honest with the investors. So I think it takes a bit of background research, which they always do anyway. But, not always looking for the loudest entrepreneur. I think that's the key for success. And experience helps, but it's not always the number one criteria. I think it should be looked at as well.
Well, great. And then on the other side of that table, what's your advice for people running startups? What do you tell them to do to be successful?
Well, I always say, it's great if you find a big VC company with a large portfolio, but they won't have necessarily the time to spend with you. So I always say, always find a VC which is also starting. So they have more time to spend with you, and you can have a journey together in a more day-to-day basis. And they can share their experience. And then that could be more organic, if you like. So it's not a matter of looking for VCs where they have large portfolios. And usually in the VC community, yes, there are very large VC companies, but what you want is the best one-to-one approach you can have from VCs. Especially for a startup that's only been in business for maybe a year or two. So at that stage, that's the type of support of VCs you should be approaching. And usually that takes a lot of research as well.
Great. Well, let's talk about the state of startup investing or venture capital funding. How do you see the industry evolving from here?
Well, I think because with travel and COVID and climate change, I feel that investors, they want to look at the future, and they not necessarily are expecting entrepreneurs to come to them. So a lot of funds as well, they want to grow their local economies. So for example, someone in India would not have the capability, the possibility to travel to Silicon Valley, and that happens in China, that happens everywhere. So everyone is trying to grow their economies. So it's a matter of how efficient can you be? Would you, with the, all VCs want to make money, of course. But I see kind of the global trade, if you like, in terms of investment to be more local led. So as opposed to be top down, I think it will be more bottom up approach from the local perspective, if you like, with the support of the local government, everything that you need to have a good ecosystem.
What do you think is the biggest change we'll see in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I feel there are a lot of investors which they kind of just are bored and have, especially Silicon Valley, a lot of investors exited and they're doing very well and they haven't got much to do. So I think, if they want to invest in talent, which could be, many miles, thousands of miles away, they will need to open their minds. So I think, considering things where investors would look at not just climate change, but technology which they may not be thinking today, which will make a big difference. So in terms of AI, everyone talks about AI, but no one actually, especially a lot of companies, don't actually apply AI in that sense. It's more expert systems. Mm-hmm. So AI will have a part to play, but talent, it doesn't matter where you are, who you are, where you are, that will never change. But access to funds have a big impact, on that, in those circumstances. So I think we will see less travel to Silicon Valley, to the US, and there'll be more, especially on the investment community, they'll be approaching people outside the US. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, you run the Venture Capital World Summit. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, the VC Summit started as just out of the demand. People just kept asking me, "Oh, you should do that conference, in our city, in our country." And I was always thinking, well, I would like to help as much as I can, but I'm not sure how I can do that, in a different country, in a different culture, different ecosystems. I didn't know much about that. And someone said, well, you don't need to worry about that because, all entrepreneurs will help with that. They all want to come and help and participate and join and do all the things that they always enjoy doing. So just set it up and we'll help as much as we can. So, I was just thinking, I was a bit hesitant at the start, but so why not? What have I got to lose? So, just put the event on, book a venue, invite a few people, and let's see what happens. So, yeah, here I am.
Great. And it sounds like it's going well for you. So let's talk about, the startup world and investors and the challenges they face. What do you see as the challenge the startups face out there today that you would deal with?
I think education. A lot of, at least half of the startups don't actually understand how a VC works. It's different from angel, and they don't, they just want to sell share in the company for whatever money they can raise. And that's not always the best approach because, as you know, VC is like a marriage, and it doesn't always work out. So startups should feel a bit more or hold a little bit back. And, it's not good if a startup is desperate for investment, but they should be more confident in what they have. That would be my advice. So I wouldn't give advice to a startup which has been in business for maybe 2 months and go and raise the first VC funds in at least $1 million. That doesn't quite make sense. So, and managing those expectations is part of education, understanding. It's kind of a circle of experience as well, which it depends what age you are as well on the startup and how much experience. But a lot of young people, they seem to think that being a startup is kind of being a rock star, which that helps. But to run a business, it's not entertainment business, so it's a more profit-led business.
Right. On the other side of that, what are the challenges you see investors face today when they work with startups?
I think most investors, they have a lot more experience than most startups. So combining those two, if you like, those two ends of the scale, it's kind of an art. So, and some VCs have the patience, others don't have the time. So they have to be passionate about the startup to make it successful, and they have to see the potential. Most have. They always look at the maths and and the things like that. So, but they should also embrace a little bit of understanding of the potential of the company, not just in 2 years, but perhaps in five, and perhaps even longer than when the fund may be due. So yeah, so if a fund, after 5 years they have to make a return, which is understandable, but if they can see potential even after 5 years, to raise a second round of funding for them, and if they see staying in the company over 5 years, I think that could be a game changer. But it does depend on circumstances, especially when you're dealing with different cultures and across the world. There is a lot that people don't say, but even sometimes by just being in person in a meeting, that can make the whole difference. So, and that's where I feel now the VC summit, especially now with COVID, people have to be as efficient as possible with their travels, with their meetings. So I think it's an opportunity, not a disadvantage, to actually meet someone in person. So I think the value of that is, there is no value in that.
Well, you see a lot of sectors and applications out there that people are investing in. If you had to pick one or two you think are at the top of the list for being a good opportunity today, what do you put there?
It's, you could have everything on paper looks great, and you say, there's no way I'm going to lose money on this, it's just not possible. But that's life. Nothing is 100% sure, and like I said, it's not always the loudest entrepreneur which makes it a success.
Mm.
You look at Jeff Bezos, he was so frugal, and look at him today. So it's an art. It's unless if you have a crystal ball, it's yeah. But intuition plays a part as well. If you feel comfortable and you think it will work out at some point, you shouldn't be too worried about this month not getting the targets right. If you see more beyond that.
Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Well, I'll just say, always keep an open mind. You don't never know who's listening or watching. So usually people that don't say much are the ones of value to any startup. And always believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to take risks, calculated risks. But sometimes people don't understand why they do things. So just keep doing what you like, and let's see what happens. But usually if you stick with what you like, it's your life, so you have to make the best of your life. So just do what you like, and hopefully an investor will like what you do as well, and they'll be with you. So.
Great. Good advice. And so how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Well, the website, vcworldsummit.com. There's a contact page there. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Elio Assuncao, and there aren't so many people with these names, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find. Yeah. Or you can just Google Elio Assuncao as well. I'm sure I'm on the first page somewhere. So
very good. We'll include those in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, as I said, thank you for having me and for your time. And I look forward to listen as well the podcast. I've been listening a couple of them as well, and they're all quite good.
Great.
So thanks very much.
Thank you. Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.